This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacy Cole, and Todd Michaels.
If you did not get a chance to watch the sentencing of Donna Adelson the other day, well, let me tell you, you are in luck, because we have handpicked some of the best moments from this groundbreaking moment in television history. It was quite a spectacle to watch. We covered it here live. Me and Robin went through it, and were commenting in almost peanut gallery in some cases. But it was disturbing. It was a real crazy example in what I think a lot of people would look at as narcissistic collapse. I don't know any other way to look at it, but here to help us take a look at it, and we're going to break down the testimony of Harvey, of Donna, and also some of what, if you're familiar with narcissistic abuse and things of that nature, the term flying monkeys, the folks that go and do your bidding for you, that still, even after confronted with fact of your evil deeds, still are out there spinning your own tale. And some of them showed up to court just the other day. Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author, joining us to do just that. Have you had a chance to dig into any of the sentencing the other day, or is this going to be the first time you're seeing some of the joys of the Donna Adelson?
I did watch quite a bit of it. I'm not sure if I saw everything, but I did see some of the various friends coming up and offering their 2 cents, and then I certainly saw Harvey and Donna.
Mm-hmm. Let's start. I want to start with one of the friends. There was a lot of messages that were just relayed by Jackie Fulfort, where she just read them. They were basic little blurbs of, Donna served me lunch in 9th grade, and she was a lovely lady, things of that nature. But then you had one, and they led with this one. This is a gentleman who was in their life quite a ways back. Even at the beginning is also going to say, when we listen, had not had a lot of interaction with them over the last 20 years, which I think is an important distinction to make and understand. But he also makes a lot of distinctions about who he is. And I'm not here to judge this man or say he's right or he's wrong. I think it's about perspective. And I think trying to understand, if you don't have a lot of experience with these people in the last 20 years, I guess, why are you testifying on their behalf at their trial? But nonetheless, let's take a listen to this, and then we'll talk about what might be going through someone's mind if you're vouching for Donna Adelson. Let's take a look at this.
Let me swear you in again, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today will be the truth?
I do.
You can lower your head. If you're examining the witness, or is he reading a statement?
He's going to present a statement, Judge.
Dr. Graber, you may proceed at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of Donna Adelson. If I can, let me just brief description of who I am, my background. I've been a friend of the Adelson family since 1979. First 20 years I knew them, we were actively engaged in many activities. In the last 20 years, I haven't seen them that much until this trial became apparent to me. And my background is I'm a medical doctor practicing obstetrics and gynecology, 45 years here in Florida. I was also a state legislature from 1988 to 96, representing Coral Springs and parts of Broward County. I was the county commissioner in Broward County and mayor of Broward County for 1 year in 2006. Also a professor at the University of Florida Medical School and the University of Miami Medical School in clinical OB/GYN. And I'm here to speak today on behalf of Donna Adelson, this person I've known for a great deal of time. Hi Donna, just want to say hi. I'm sorry I can't be there to hug you. And I'm sorry we didn't get to have that dinner after your trial was over. But I'm here to, on your behalf, to let you know that you have friends, and I believe in you. Let me say that, Don, I never thought we'd be here at this situation when I first met you.
Right.
It was a total shock to me and to our families. And it's a tragedy for me to have to be here to talk about this. I feel very bad for your family, for the Martell family, for the tragedy everyone's experiencing. The media have been following this for 2 years. It appears to be a dissolution of two families. My background is similar in many ways to both families. I grew with Martell. I'm the son of Holocaust survivors. I actually was born in Germany with displaced persons family. Came to the United States at the age of 18 months. So like the boys, Lincoln and Benjamin, I don't have a lot of recollection of them from the first beginning of my time in the United States, but they don't have the recollection of their father, which is very sad to me. But they do have families, and I have family. And we have to learn a great deal from our tragedies how to come back into life. My distress is not just for Donna and the Adelsons, but for the Martells as well, and especially for 3 generations of each family, which I see in tragic downward swing. And yet, I did meet Lincoln and Benjamin at the bar mitzvah last year, and I got to meet those two boys, wonderful boys. Unfortunately, I never got to meet Dan Martell, but I have read many of his articles. Very impressive, really very talented man who makes some very good points about the law and about compassion in the law, which he feels could be improved. And I agree with that. So part of what I'd like to say today is basically that I do believe that Donna is a victim of not just circumstance, but has been actively exploited by parties involved in this case. I believe she was exploited by her son. Knowing Donna, who was the youngest child in her family, knowing her mother, and how close she was with her mother, and understanding their love and need for family, it makes no sense to me that she would pursue an activity that will destroy two families like it has. However, having known her son and some of his issues, I believe Donna, in her own naive way, trying to be a loving mother, is subdued by guilt, by silence, by denial, and perhaps even active exploitation, and used for activities she had no part of. So I believe she's innocent on all 3 counts, even though she was found guilty on all 3 counts. Part of my understanding is also that the victims here are both families. And to watch the hate and distress and the vengeance I see, it's a terrible thing to look at. As Holocaust survivors, you'd think we would understand that how damaging it is to families.
You'd think.
I would have to say, my background, I grew up in the Bronx, the public school system. I actually was at Queens College when Donna was there, but I didn't know her. She graduated a year after I did. My wife, Sandy, graduated from Queens College as well. And in Coral Springs, we met up after being there a while, new young families, professionals trying to build a life, having children, building the community, which we did. So to see this situation occur, to me, it was devastating in many aspects. As a legislator, I can tell you that we see things in the law. Even though I'm a doctor and I was chairman of healthcare, I was a Democrat, majority leader, and I sat on Judiciary Committee for 2 years and spit out laws. Even wrote some of the sentencing guidelines and participated in passing them at that time. What I learned over the years is that I've had the privilege of passing many laws because I was a leader and I was able to work both sides. So many of my laws exist in the books. I get calls from judges periodically asking me about the intent of the law, and I wrote it because they have a case, and it's come down to what did you intend to happen from this law? And they would ask my opinion, and they would use that information. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the intent of the judicial guidelines for sentencing. I think the life without parole is a very harsh sentence. And that was not the intent, was to punish domestic cases with that, but to hit drug dealers and organized crime and dangerous to the public. But I think it's been switched over to be used in conspiracy theories against the average citizen, which is not the intent of the law, in my opinion. Second of all, I think that it's unfortunate that this case has gone into so many new victims. And if already you have 4 victims who have been found guilty of murder, 2 have committed the murder, maybe 1. The other are conspiracy theories. And I would believe that I would suggest that needs to be reviewed by the legislature. That's my opinion. Now, in this case,
Dr. Graber, before you continue, is this being offered as character? Because he is not an expert on the law.
It's character, Judge.
Very well.
Thank you, Tom.
may continue, Doctor.
yes, that's my opinion from my background. That's not, I'm not giving a professional opinion. I'm giving my personal opinion from experience.
It's when the music plays you out at the
What I'm asking
award
the
show.
court today
Right,
is, for
it's
me,
time.
The court, the judicial system, the power of the judicial system is in the judge. And it is the judge who is the presenter of a safety net for the public
Okay.
to show some compassion when the cold
This guy is
law,
insufferable.
Yeah, he is.
every box checked off, shows no compassion. Where does the compassion come from? It should come from the judge, it should come from the jury. And I think that maybe that's something.
Imagine being on a date with this guy.
Sitting at a bar and like he's next to you.
Like, oh, would you just shut up already?
I'm out.
That everything she can do for her kids, for her family, for her community. She has no bad intentions. She's not a leader. She's a baby in her family. She's always been a follower. Yes, she makes noise and she complains, but that's not her behavior. This is not her profile. So I understand that nothing can be changed, but I want it on record that I believe she is innocent of these 3 counts, and we believe her. With that, I would have to say, sometimes bad things happen to good people.
Jesus.
One of those cases.
Bad things happen to good.
One of the families, I would ask, beg them, think about the 2 boys. Dad's not here, but a piece of him is here, one of those 2 boys. And their future, they're both teenagers now. Their future depends a lot on what's going on here, and how they're going to be perceived in the future, and how they will interpret the future based on this. So I think it's time for some compassion, some understanding, some forgiving. Perhaps it's time to take a step back and let everyone heal from this process. With that, I say to you, Donna, and I love you. We support you and the family, and we hope you the best. God bless you. And Your Honor, thank you for letting me speak.
There you go.
Wow.
So that was the doctor, one of their friends from a long time ago, I guess, speaking on their behalf. There was a lot to unpack there. Shavaun, what the hell did we just see?
I just kept thinking mansplaining.
Yes.
I mean, this guy likes to hear himself talk, doesn't he? He said as much about himself as he said about Donna. But yeah, good term would be flying monkey, somebody that's bought into the story and has an emotional investment in trying to save her and do her bidding. So if I would have been wanting to edit that speech, that was unfortunate.
Yeah. It felt like he was just kind of like riffing and didn't really know what he was going to say to a certain, or like he had kind of an outline, but then it's like, I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to pull this in. I guess the question would be, if you haven't been that close to these people in 20 some years and your memories of her children are like children, little kids, and to be able to make these assumptions of she's exploited by her son and somehow downplaying the death of her grandkid's father because he lost his father too. There was some of that going on in there too, I believe, where it was like, I've been through tough times too, and they can get through. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but what the fuck fuck was that?
Yeah, I think as we're looking so much in this case of the narcissistic kind of tendencies that people have, this sort of screamed that too. It was loud and clear that this guy has certainly some similar tendencies.
Some similar tendencies.
Yeah. Do the flying monkeys typically believe the story, or are they're buying into it and they'll go along with it and nod their heads? Or are they fully 100% all in?
Yeah, it'll vary, but I think most of the time they really believe the story. They've bought into the reality, kind of that extended narcissistic system, and people like that find other people like that, and people who have a need to latch on. So I think usually they do buy it.
Do you have different degrees of flying monkeys when it comes to narcissists, where you have some that will just buy in because they're just ill-informed on the person, but they have little facts here and there that tell them that, well, they were nice to me once. These interactions I've had, they were great. I can't possibly see them being this way, and that they'll just blindly go at it? And do you have ones that are there with more of a motive of, I'll be your flying monkey, but you're feeding me as much as I'm feeding you? Is there that sort of thing? And is that even a flying monkey when it comes to that sort of a narcissistic relationship?
Yeah, and I don't usually use terms like flying monkeys because that's putting a really simple box around something that's way more complicated than it is.
Sure.
And so I think you nailed it. Different people have different motivations. Some are actually basking in the glow. They see the narcissistic person as this wonderful, perfect being, and they feel this sense of, empowerment, or that it rubs off on them. And I see that a lot. It's like, I want to be like this person, so I'm becoming their ally. And some are just really naive and dumb and believe the story that they're told.
And it's hard to know because you're going to have all different ones for all different purposes here, and obviously can't diagnose this guy. I mean, I just feel like okay, this seemed like a platform for him to talk. He certainly talked and expressed his opinion, but I don't know. I'm always kind of shocked when people are expressing strong opinions on important matters when they're ill-informed on what they're even talking about. And that kind of is how that felt. Like, there's no evidence. There's like, excuse me? Like, did you watch the last 4 trials?
I don't think he did.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the answer, is you probably did not watch the last, unless, you go into it with the mindset that, this is what it's going to be, and I'm never going to absorb anything here or consider facts.
Looking at it as it's all, look at these people who are just out to get this poor woman, my good friend that I haven't seen in 20 years. So not absorbing it.
And that's the other part that just got my attention. So you're a close friend of hers, but you haven't seen her in 20 years. How does that work? How does that work?
Well, that's the trend with a lot of narcissists, though, too, is it not? I mean, it's kind of a cycle of friendships that are gone through, and some ending with bridges being set ablaze, others just off into the night. I wonder what happened to that person. And I'm kind of feeling like this might be more one of those I wonder what happened to that person type relationships.
Until you see them in the national headlines and go, I should probably reach out and see what's going on.
I wonder if I can speak at their sentencing.
Right? Right.
It's the first thing that runs through my mind when I see an old friend in the headlines. Like, could this be a platform? I could talk about how I was a legislator in the 1990s. Harvey Adelson did not testify as a husband or trying to offer comfort. He testified as a man unraveling, angry, wounded, and still completely tethered to a version of reality where his wife, Donna Adelson, is the real victim, not Dan Markel.
Well, now he has to cook dinner, Tony.
That's true, but let's be honest here. You were struggling with that just a few months ago. On the air, you were coming to me going, I don't know, I can cook a steak. And I had to say, Stacy, you can cook a steak.
I can cook a steak.
I will walk you through how to cook a steak.
You never did that, by the way, dude.
No, you're right. Dave did.
You're right. My other radio partner did. Yeah, you did. Good point.
So
okay.
You can't. Okay, so.
Touche.
So Donna, so what we're going on here, Donna Adelson is not the real victim here, but in Harvey's mind, that's what he's thinking. Not Dan Markell, not the grandchildren, not the justice system, just Donna. And by extension himself. For nearly 5 minutes, Harvey pled with the court to believe that his wife is innocent, that Dan's parents are liars, and that this was all the result of a biased judge and media frenzy. His voice cracked. His grief was real. But so was his total denial. Let's take a look at Harvey testifying for Donna, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Adelson, please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
You can lower your hand. You may speak.
Thank you, Judge, and respected officers of the court for allowing me to speak. I have been Donna Adelson's husband for over 50 years. My wife sacrificed everything so that she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mine. She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you can. Danny's parents contend that they have never seen their grandchild. But for years they say they've never seen her. But Wendy has shared with me pictures and videos and letters from their visits. They have suffered immensely at the loss of their son, but they also contend to tell lies to the court about our grandchildren. Donna has always been a loving and caring wife and is innocent of the charges. A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces and social media.
Dr. Ms. Fulford, this has nothing to do with the character of the defendant or related to sentencing.
May I just a moment, please?
So Jackie never even looked at any of these things, it looks like. Just like, go ahead, say what you want. So they spent some time, and it was longer than this, going through it.
Donna did not participate in the heinous acts that she was convicted of doing. You are sending an innocent woman to prison. You have taken my wife, and you have taken my life as well. And for what? This is not justice. It is vengeance, and it is wrong.
What do you think is going on with Harvey, honestly? I mean, this looks really narcissistic. It looks really self-centered. I mean, and I would say the fact that he's actively attacking the opposing family of the son who's dead is a pretty narcissistic move. But what's going on here with Harvey? Is he just sucked into this as in Donna's land, or is he just so a victim of this as well, and his mind is as mixed up as everyone else's that's been through the tornado of Donna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is an example of not just, we've talked about Donna with her apparent narcissistic tendencies. It's not just her, it's the entire system of her family members that have been enmeshed with her. There's one shared story, and they share what that story is, which is Donna is a caring, loving, perfect mother and wife. And as the narcissist has the defenses of denying their flaws, seeking admiration, and when something goes wrong, they blame other people. I think you're seeing that in the system as well, that tendency. And does he really believe what he's saying? He probably really believes it, because that's the way this kind of stuff works. It distorts reality and distorts perception. And it's like the evidence be damned. They just don't see it.
He's 81 years old. He's now newly single. Well, I mean, he's still married technically, but Donna's never coming out.
Right.
What do you see for the future of Harvey for someone like this? I mean, when you're met with something like this, and this is not a normal situation. It's not normal where suddenly your partner is gone, but they're alive and they're in prison for conspiracy to commit murder. Around this age, you have partners who die, but this is not that. This is very different. This is going to be one he's going to have to try and wrap his mind around even more. Do you think he's going to be able to do that, or is this kind of one of those things where this is his conviction for the rest of his life?
It will. The story will probably never change, and he will continue to be angry about it. But will he be able at 81 to move on in some way and rebuild himself after this? That's really questionable. How many more years does he have? I think every day after 80 is kind of a gift. Many of us are not going to make it that far. So does he have much time in the future with all of this? I can't say.
Well, and especially with all of this stress, an 81-year-old in general doesn't have a whole lot of time left.
No.
But then you throw on this massive amount of stress. I imagine it's taking its toll on every single member of this family.
Very much.
But then you look at wasn't during this one, but during the trial itself when she was found guilty, the amount of women behind him wearing, fashion circa 1989 Daytons with large brooches. And there's a lot of love in the villages. And there's a lot of ladies that I don't think are necessarily, partnered up right now because their Harveys have gone on to the great beyond.
Yeah.
This is an available Harvey.
Does this look like somebody you'd want to have your grandmother dating, though?
One of Jeff Dunham's characters. I think that might be a little awkward.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look who I brought home. This is grandma's new boyfriend, Harvey. Yeah.
The women are swooping in with casseroles, a different casserole every night for helping him out, undoubtedly. But, one of my dear friends is a gentleman who's 86. Mm-hmm. And for his 80th birthday, he threw himself his own funeral because he wanted to hear what people were going to say about him. And people flew from all over the country to come to this big party funeral. And guess what? He's now 86. And so he's going to have to do it again if he makes it to 90. And he's got a girlfriend, and they have an active sex life still at 86. So it's hard to say, but he didn't think he'd live that long. So
get it, boy.
Yeah.
There might still be some fuel in old Harvey yet.
There might be.
There might be. Didn't they do that? Forgive me here if you're not Gen X or older, but didn't they do that on Little House on the Prairie? Didn't Charles help somebody throw their own funeral while they were still alive?
That was the Golden Girls.
No?
Yeah, well, I do know what happened in the Golden
Girls. Maybe it happened on, maybe it did there as well, but I'm pretty sure that was a Little House on the Prairie, but I digress.
It was a very special crossover episode where the Golden Girls met Little House on the Prairie. Granted, it was completely different time periods, but they did cross over, and yeah.
Speaking of which, I saw a crossover of Love Boat yesterday. So, yeah, it was Laverne and Shirley in Love Boat. So it was a whole thing.
Wow.
I didn't know that it existed. Wow. Wow. With a very special appearance by Harvey Adelson.
There you go.
Coming up next. We are talking about the case of Donna Adelson, the tragedy that is the murder of Dan Markel and the sentencing now of the matriarch in all of this. Donna Adelson herself, with Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author. We're now going to jump more over to Donna herself, because Donna didn't walk into her sentencing with remorse. She walked into it with a script, a shaky, erratic, emotionally splintered script, and a plea to recast herself as the second victim in the murder of Dan Markel. Yes, she went there. She tried to do it. She swore on her life. She cried over her grandson. She declared herself the innocent woman without a parking ticket, convinced that she had nothing to hide. And there was nothing but hatred and lies that were all piling up that created this. We may pause a little bit as we go through watching Donna Adelson's court performance, but let's begin. This is Donna in court the other day, having her voice heard.
This is not amplified.
Okay. Is this loud enough, Judge?
I can hear you.
Thank you for letting me speak. My son-in-law, Dan Morkill, was a fine and decent man. He was well-educated and passionate about his career. He was a good son-in-law, but more importantly, he was a caring and loving father. On July 18th, 2014, his car was followed, leaving his home. It should have been just like any other day, an ordinary day in the life of Ben and Lincoln's father, but it wasn't. He didn't know when he left his boys off at daycare that would be the last time he would see them, and the last time they would see him. He didn't know when he went to the gym afterwards that would be the last time he would exercise. And he didn't know when he drove home that his life would end within minutes. Danny wasn't just being followed, he was being hunted. He was brutally murdered in broad daylight, sitting in his car, in his garage, by vicious killers. I cannot imagine the terror he felt when he saw a gun pointed at him through the window of his car. I cannot conceive of his heroic efforts to stay alive during the hours after the attack. Danny died in the early morning hours of July 19th. His death is a loss to his children, his parents, his sister, all of us in his family, his friends, his colleagues in the legal community, and to his students at FSU Law School. Danny's boys each have a photo of themselves with their Abba, their dad, beside their beds. They grew up kissing the framed photo and saying, "Good night, Abba, I love you." The pictures and memories are all they have because cruel, cold-hearted people took him from all of us who loved him. My heart was broken when Danny died. My grandsons were going to grow up without the father who loved them. I wondered, how could we help these boys through this trauma? It was then that my husband and I knew that the best way to honor Danny's memory would be to share with these children an abundance of love, the love that Danny would have given them if he were alive.
Let's pause for a second of this bullshit show.
Yeah, thank you. Good grief.
I mean, this is a woman who's joking about dressing the kids up as Hitler Youth to torture Danny. I mean, what are we witnessing here?
Sure feels performative, doesn't it? I don't know that anybody would buy this. And I think she's been thinking about what is going to score her points here. And she came up with, well, let me mimic what looks like empathy. I'm gonna do an acting job here about what empathy would look like. But yeah, when you know the whole story, you know everything that she said about him over the years, it doesn't jive.
No, it doesn't. And she was incredibly cruel to him behind the scenes, behind the curtain. And to come out here now and just, oh, Danny, Danny was a wonderful man. Get screwed, lady. I mean, really.
What is going through someone's mind like this, like through Donna's as she's delivering this sort of thing? Is it part of the narcissism that prohibits her from being aware of her surroundings and aware of the audience, that all these people are aware of the horrible things that are on the record? Her own attorney in this actual hearing even admitted to it time and time again, which I found kind of odd. Like, why do you keep bringing this up, Jackie? Of the horrible things that she had said in those letters and those angry emails and such. And yet she's trying to pitch this as she's just this loving grandmother. And she put Abba's picture by their bedside, the kids, so they can kiss it goodnight. And because of the wisdom of her and Harvey, they're going to show love that their father couldn't because he's gone. I mean, what the... It's vile, but clearly she doesn't seem to think that what's coming out of her mouth is that disgusting.
No, that's the perceptual distortion of people with personality disorders. They see the world in a very unrealistic way, and they don't understand that other people see things differently. The other thing that pops into my head whenever I see a lot of footage of her is, we see we'll say narcissistic traits and qualities. We also see a lot of histrionic qualities, and that's the tendency to do big emotions in a very shallow way and in a manipulative, self-serving way. And that's the other quality. Those are in the cluster B family of personality disorders, so they overlap a lot. But this intense drama, this acting, and there's always a reason for it that's self-serving.
Is that the whole, is the mic okay, Judge? And then all of a sudden, and Danny, oh, Danny, boy.
Yeah.
And the, like the vibrato in the voice.
100%. That's histrionic stuff. And as I always say, where do you see a lot of histrionic personality types? In Hollywood, because they make good actors and actresses. Yeah.
But they can reel it in to be believable. Donna doesn't seem that believable.
Yeah.
That's the problem with someone like Donna is they think, and the ones that are good that think they're good, well, then that makes a perfect actor, doesn't it? Because they're able to do it all and pull it off. But then you have so many of ones that are not good that just live amongst us that end up getting sympathy and empathy. Why do we as a society fall for these people when they're out there? Because obviously Donna's 70-something. She's pulled this act off most of her life to some degree of success without being imprisoned for it yet. It's finally led her there because her actions took her there. But she's been able to do this, and enough people, clearly even some that came out the other day that hadn't seen her forever, still buying the act that she's this wonderful, great person. Is that the sad part of the goodness of people, that we're trying to see the goodness in people and we fall for the bullshit?
I think that's a really, really insightful comment. People who are not manipulative, liars, performative, don't assume that other people are. Yeah. They believe what they're told, and that's not a character flaw on their part. They just assume that because they don't manipulate, that other people don't manipulate. And so I think it's a bit naive, and the older we get, we learn more, that you can't believe everything you hear. But for many people, when they particularly if they only know the person superficially, they go along with the story because, that's the kind of person that they are.
And we always tend to think about things through our own prisms. And if we have this idea that, okay, you're like on a level of 1 to 10, how much am I capable of manipulating someone? Like, here's 10, here's 1, and you kind of have your range of like, if I really needed to, I could go, my 10 is here. But the thing is, not everybody's 10 is there. Sometimes that 10 is like, rip the knob off. Your thing doesn't even go anywhere near it. Their 10 is like a 5,000 compared to what your 10 is. Yeah. But we're always still thinking in like on that scale of 1 to 10, what is it for you? What's your pain? And it's sometimes, I think, unfathomable to us that there's other human beings out there that their 10s are that far out, that far beyond the comprehension of what we would even contemplate going to.
100%. And I think all human qualities, you can say they're on a continuum. And that's what makes personality analysis so interesting, is looking at the different qualities and how much does this person have that one. And when we get into the personality disorders, they're off the norm chart. That's what makes them so special.
Do we need to do better at, should we be doing better at learning how to identify these sort of things in people around us? Is that something that if you were to go to the education system or something, and just in general would you be saying, I'd like people from a younger age to be able to learn about these things and be able to identify them in a healthy way for their own self-protection? I mean, do you think that would be a skill that would be beneficial to society, or would it make us communicate less with each other because we'd all be scared?
That is the driving force behind so much of my writing and why I write the books I write. Because, if I had known then what I know now, I would have made very different life choices. I have a dear friend who many years ago decided she wanted to be a therapist. So she went and got her master's degree and did her internship. I was actually her supervisor. And she was really good at it, but she ended up saying, this is way too much stress for the amount of money I earn. I'm going to go back to my other career. And she said, but I don't regret getting the degree because now I know the people to avoid and the men I don't want to date. And I said, then it's worth it. It's worth it. Hard way to get the lessons. But I think we need to educate more about it.
What makes a person become like Donna and Harvey? What I mean, are they born this way? Or is this something that just develops over time?
I believe it's eating tacos from Jack in the Box at a young age.
No, I did a lot of that. I did a lot of that.
Careful, Tony.
You're
Shavaun,
calling me
clearly
out.
your question.
You're calling me out. Yeah, there's a lot of really good new research on personality and looking at the personality disorders. And there is a lot more genetics involved in it than what we used to think. We used to think, going back 40, even 30 years ago, that all personality people were basically born a blob of clay and they were molded by their environment. And that's what made them what they are. In truth, looking particularly at identical twins who were separated at birth and adopted by very different families, you find really similar personalities. And it's absolutely fascinating. If anybody want to look it up, that you can look up Minnesota twin studies and personality, and there's just some amazing stories about the similar ways people developed. So, and there's a lot of other DNA research as well. I'm trying to remember the book. I can't remember the book, but I've got a really good book on my coffee table about the power of DNA and what we know now that we didn't used to know. So I think it's always a combination of we're born with certain tendencies and then the environment can reinforce it or tamp it down. And so I would guess that Donna was raised in a home where there was a lot of these kind of narcissistic histrionic behaviors going on. And kids, who may be born with those tendencies, you can teach them not to go there and you can modify that. But I think you can say for all of us, we're a combination of the weird combination of DNA that we got from our family lineage. And that doesn't mean we come out exactly like mom and dad, because it's all the way the genes interact and then the way that we were raised. And if we know psychopathy, the tendency to be a psychopath is very loaded for genetics. But if you catch that early with a kid, you can teach them not to give in to maybe what those worst impulses are.
And you can tease that out of yourself. You can change your future. If you are genetically predisposed to become a narcissist, you can identify that in yourself and do something about it, correct?
Yes. I think the key is, are people with certain tendencies motivated for personal growth? And sometimes they're not. But there are a lot of tendencies. I've got a lot of OCD tendencies. My dad had OCD, and I have to work with myself. It doesn't really come out in behaviors, but it can come out in an obsessive thinking style. I learned that early on in therapy. That's something I've modified over the years, and I can let a lot of that go. And it all depends on how motivated a person is.
And that's the biggest thing. They have to be motivated, and they have to not be sitting there going, well, that's how I am. I'm happy with who I am. And the thing is, a lot of folks with those personality styles, it's worked for them.
Yeah.
And so going the other way doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, even if it would be beneficial in the long run. But that's why Psychonex, new Psychonex, just one spray to each nostril will cure the psychopath in you. Even if it's genetic, it removes it.
Wouldn't it be great if there was something like that? It would be amazing.
Don't take Psychonex if you're allergic to Psychonex, by the way. Just, that's my, it's actually my Mucinex.
Could cause erections for longer than 4 hours.
That shit's a bitch. I'm kidding. Let's continue on with more of watching Donna, rattle through her last moments above water.
It's interesting how the state can't make up its mind about who is what they call the, quote, mastermind behind this murder. In both of Catherine Magbanowa's trials, the state claims she was the mastermind behind Danny's murder. In my son Charlie Adelson's trial, they claimed he was the mastermind. And now in my trial, they claimed that this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it. With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed. Where is the evidence prior to the murder? The evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the state needed to prove their case. Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 in the morning?
Before you continue, Mrs. Adelson, as it relates to this statement, is the defense trying to re-argue the trial?
Yeah.
The judge just giving Adelson an opportunity to be heard.
Mrs. Adelson, you certainly can continue. However, the court can take into consideration the utter lack of remorse that you are displaying.
Not what you want the judge to say to you.
Desire to do so.
Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 a.m.
Nothing
that
outlasts
revealed
the
that I
Donna.
had any involvement in this vile and horrific act? Where is the solicitation and conspiracy evidence? The state needed to show that there was evidence before the murder to convict me. The state couldn't show that because there wasn't any evidence. They were trying an innocent person. It makes you wonder if the jurors were sleeping when the state had Sergeant Corbett on the stand for hours. Their own star witness testified that my phone was never, I repeat, never at my son's house on the night of the murder. The state's theory that my husband and I dropped off money to my son was blown out of the water by their own witness. And yet, the state continued to push that story, that lie of the so-called money drop to the jury through the remainder of the trial. And the jury bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Reasonable doubt. Many months ago, my attorneys filed a motion for a change of venue. An expert witness testified that Tallahassee had been barraged with over 9 years of negative social media, printed news, television news, and podcast publicity about my family. He explained to the court, both with evidence and demonstratives, that for me to receive a fair trial, it needed to be held in any of the researched and designated areas in the state of Florida other than Tallahassee. All I wanted was a level playing field, but the court wanted the trial here in the hotbed of Tallahassee. I sat through 3 days of jury selection. 180 potential jurors were asked if they had developed an opinion in my case. Those that answered yes also added, I believe she is guilty. Not one person, not one, said, I think she may be innocent. That should have been a clue to the court to grant our motion for a change of venue. But the court denied the motion. One of my jurors admitted during jury selection that she had background information concerning what one of the state's witnesses would be testifying about. Why was she allowed to be on my jury?
What moment?
Another juror.
Mrs. Fulford,
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Mr. Zellman, again, this has nothing to do with elocution of any sort. This is a raising of grievances, which are properly given to the appellate court.
Festivus.
What does any of this have to do with sentencing?
Just one more.
Please.
What happened to Danny is unforgivable. But I am an innocent woman convicted of this terrible crime without evidence. Danny was a brilliant legal scholar. He would have been appalled at the total lack of justice that went on during my trial. He would have been embarrassed to have his name associated with any of it. There are two crimes here. The first was Danny being viciously murdered. The second one is taking my life, the life of an innocent woman. Convicting me should not be retribution for Danny's
Two crimes.
death. That is not justice for Dan. I've always respected the law. I've never gotten a parking ticket, but I'm going to prison for a murder I did not commit. I do intend to file an appeal so that hopefully I have the opportunity to be given a fair trial outside of Tallahassee. 11 years ago, Danny was murdered and taken from all of us who loved him. For the past 9.5 years, the state has broadcast to the world, including Danny's parents and sister, that I hired hitmen to kill him. Never in a million years would I have wanted Danny to be harmed or killed, nor could I ever do something that would leave these two small boys to grow up without him. I love these boys more than life itself. This is a lifetime of loss for these children. They didn't deserve this. His family didn't deserve this. Danny didn't deserve this. And so, as I appear before you today, Your Honor, I promise you with my whole heart, I swear to you on my life, I was not involved in any way with Danny's murder. I was not.
And thanks for playing, Donna.
And scene.
Shavaun, what the hell was that?
She sure alternates between frail and angry pretty quickly, doesn't she? And why do you think insulting the judge and jury is going to bring mercy at this point? A lot of speculation is about her crying with no tears. And, I always, with body language and those kind of things, I hesitate to make rules because we're all different. And some people cry in a more contained way. But the crying doesn't look genuine. Again, the whole thing has a performative feel. And this is if we want to say narcissistic collapse, people go into, when they're humiliated, they can go into emotional dysregulation where they get really angry. Sometimes they get very depressed. And that's what it looks like. She's pissed off.
It felt like she was grasping for all, like a kid, that emotional dysregulation where it's just like, I'm just going to grasp at anything and everything and throw it out here and see what sticks. That really kind of felt like where she was going with this. It didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't benefit her in any way, shape, or form. It was performative so she could say her part to an audience that doesn't care, that she thinks gives a shit. And they don't, because there's nobody there. But she's so she's so not seeing this. The distortion or cognitive distortion of reality is such that she thinks there's a crowd of people sitting there waiting and cheering her on, but there's no one.
Yeah.
There's no one.
Yeah.
It's her and Harvey and the weird guy that probably had a crush on her a long time ago. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It was a weird guy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why you're showing up all these years later saying lovely things about the woman. So there's some conjecture. I don't know. But it's a weird one to grasp onto, how she can go from the highs to the lows and at the end accept no responsibility at all, even for the things that were proven, even for the things that her attorney, even like I was saying, was bringing up, going, she did this. It's like that doesn't even matter. She just glosses over that as if it means nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, why is that? I mean, why is? I mean, I get when you're on your tirade. Is she not seeing that in that moment in time, or does it just not matter?
I think she doesn't see it, and it just doesn't matter. Even if there are those little moments where the denial is, breaking through, but it just really shows her perceptual distortions. And yes, she thinks there's an audience out there watching this and applauding, and that lack of awareness that people are looking at her as the perpetrator and a very despicable person at this point.
How do you think Donna's going to fare in prison?
Well, she knows how to wield charm, and she's highly manipulative. She can also play frail grandma and try to garner sympathy. So I think she'll do better in prison than probably what most of us would do. She's got those manipulative skills.
She's going to make a lot. She already has made a lot of people think, oh, she's not going to do well there. She's just this old frail woman, and it's not. I don't know. I think
I'm not buying it.
The way that once she was done speaking and there was nothing more to say, there were no more tears from her. When the judge let her have it, when the judge laid down the sentence, she just sat there defiant with her smirk. I think that said a lot. I mean, what did you glean out of that she wasn't sitting there bawling her eyes out or acting manipulative or doing anything? The performance was over when the judge finally gave the actual sentence. She just stood there stoic, which was, I mean, again, if you're really overwhelmed with emotion, one would think you'd still be overwhelmed with emotion, not suddenly, let's flip the switch.
Yeah, it's that switch flipping that makes it look so suspect. I agree completely. It's she vacillated all over the place during this speech, and I think the anger for me was the real emotion, the frailty, the look how fragile I am, I'm grandma. That was really the manipulative part, but the anger was what's really underneath that.
Do you think she's just going to be this prison monster? Do you think she's going to be like the lead bitch in prison with that anger? I could see it because she's really a manipulator.
Yeah. My guess is she'll first try to come off as I'm this kindly old woman who's been persecuted, and see what kind of points she can score with that. But yeah, you wouldn't want to cross her, really. You wouldn't, because she's sneaky in that way.
What would you say to the Markel kids? And I'll call them the Markel kids because they're the Markel kids. Have been renamed the Adelsons. If they're watching this at some point, trying to put their life together and figuring out their history. And this is a little documented section of it. And like, well, I wonder what people thought of this moment in Grandma's life. What would your message be to them if they're watching this a few years older as young adults?
Boy, this is going to be one that will take a lifetime to unpack, and there's just not going to be an easy way through it for them. That's where my empathy goes, is for them, of course, for Dan, but also for these kids. It's going to take a lot of work with what story was real. What were the good things that I got from my grandparents? And what is all this other stuff? And how will they integrate that? Who knows? But it's gonna be a lifelong process for them. That's
a hard thing. When you have good things and good pieces, and then you find out bad information, good information that's bad about people that you thought were good.
Exactly.
I guess that's the way I want to say it. To square all that up, because there probably are a lot of happy memories of grandma and things then together, but then to find out that person played a major role in destroying a huge part of your life and taking something from you in such an unimaginable way, that how do you square that up? Is it okay to still, I mean, there's no right or wrong to any of this, but that I think would be a hard one to square, the still feeling that conflictingness of, well, there was goodness here, but there's all this evil over here. So what does that mean? I mean, how do you begin to wrap your mind around something like that?
It's super hard. And my guess is that when she was with those kids, she doted on them. She probably spoiled them. She adored them in her histrionic way. And it would not surprise me if they will never be able to accept reality. They'll never be able to accept the other side of the story. I don't know that. But that would also be one outcome that I could see happening. And the other way, how do you integrate the reality with the grandma that you knew and loved, that you felt loved you? That's a hard one.
And I guess, healthy is how you define it for that individual. Healthy is not what I make it or you make it. It's how that person's going through their life. What is the healthy route there? If you were to just believe the bullshit, but it's not going to affect any other aspect of your life, you have your own identity, your own everything out here is over here that just happens to be part of your past, but you'd rather believe that Santa Claus exists because it's easier and it feels more fun than not, essentially. Is that okay to do? Or is dealing with reality on reality's terms always going to be the healthiest outcome for anybody, or is that very much an individual thing?
I go with it's an individual thing. I mean, I have a bias for reality always. I think that's probably the preferred way to go. Yeah. But if some people just can't accept it, then their story is going to be their story. And I support their survival. I mean, what people have to do to get through the day ultimately and live as good of a life as they possibly can, considering their history. It is an excellent question, I
like that. You support their survival. That's a good way of looking at it for folks who've had to endure things like that. Yeah, because it is such an individual thing, and it's not about, All right, Shavaun Scott, as always, thank you so much. Your book, Nightbird, this is the memoir that's out now in the minds of mass killers. Check them out wherever books are sold. Go search and enjoy. It's going to wrap up the episode. For Todd, for Stacy, for Shavaun, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.